Hi there, it's Natasha, and thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you choosing to spend your time watching this video, and I hope you enjoy it. This is the shaker card that we are going to be creating today. It has a see-through panel at the front where you can see through to the sentiment that is stamped in the middle. I had a lot of fun putting this card together. It was pretty cool, so let's go ahead and make it together. I'm going to start off with a piece of 10 by 5 inch Nina Solar White 110 pound cardstock, and I've scored this down the middle to create a top folding 5 by 5 inch card, so just a square card base. A friend of mine, Sasha Reed, who is also on YouTube, sent me a little bag of things, and in it was these strips of paper. So this is my inspiration for this card, and it's going to become part of my card front. So I've cut that down. What I also wanted was another layer just to create a little bit kind of offset of that brown. And so I have chosen, this is the Watercolor Wishes. It's kind of a minty blue color, and this is going to be a 5 by 5 inch piece. So it's going to take up the whole card front, and then this little, this is kind of like a chocolate brown color, is going to be the next layer. So with these two layers, I'm going to tape them together because I need them to stay exactly as they will be on the card, but I don't want to glue them together just yet. So I'm taking a little bit of low-tack tape and taping up the sides so that they stay put. Then I have these circle dies here. These are from Aliexpress, which I will link down below in case you're interested. They're just layering dies, plain, with no stitching or anything. And I'm going to take the smaller one of these two that I've chosen and tape it in place, and just roughly the center. I'm eyeballing it. I eyeball pretty much everything. I measure very little in my world, in my crafting world, and I have run it through my Cuttlebug. So now I have a die cut circle through both of these layers, and I know that it's in the right place when I go to stick them down. So if it doesn't quite cut through both, you can either run it through again, or it'll leave an impression, so you'll be able to see where to put the die on the blue layer. But it cut through both of mine just fine. Now I need it to cut a layer through my card front. So this is really important that I am going to tack it into place and then tack the die where it needs to go, but make sure you run it through with your card open. Otherwise you're going to get a, maybe not cut, but an indent left on your back page as well. So I ran that through my machine, and now I have the same circle cut through my card front and my two layers that will be glued on the front of the card. And then while I was deciding this, I also remembered that I'm going to need a piece for the inside. So again, I'm going to layer all of these up and tack them together so I get it in exactly the right place. And I've cut another piece of that same Watercolor Wishes paper from Lawn Fawn and into a 5 by 5 piece of paper. And I'm going to run this again, yet again, through my Cuttlebug with the same circle die. And so this is going to be for the inside, because I will need two sides to this shaker card, obviously, two pieces of acetate. So one will go on the outside and be covered by those two card front pieces, and one will go on the inside and be covered by this piece here that I've just cut. So here we are. I have my two pieces of acetate, and these have been cut to just slightly smaller than 5 by 5 inch pieces. Now, we're kind of going to start assembling this card, and it seems like we have a few pieces, but it's not that complex at all. It just takes a second to think about. These are from Alina Cuttle. This is the main reason I got all of these beautiful gems from Alina, her store on AliExpress, and I wanted to use them. So they go really well. They're kind of chocolatey brown color, which goes really well with the cardstock that I chose for the front. So now we're going to start putting everything all together. So I am just going to, this is the base layer, so I don't need acetate yet, but I am going to liquid glue this layer down, and there's kind of not too much rhyme or reason as to why I'm using liquid glue or double-sided tape here. You just have to use what you're comfortable with, really. But I am going to use double-sided tape for the acetate. Now this is Alina's double-sided tape, and it is very super sticky strong, which is fantastic for shaker cards because you definitely don't want them coming apart. So I am putting it around all 4 sides because this is the top layer, so it's not the part that I need to seal, like seal in around the edges. So this is just to make sure that it stays down to my card front. And it's going to go on the back of that chocolatey layer. Now this is where I need to fill in this part with foam. This is Alina's foam, a foam tape, and again I've been using this and really enjoying it. I have both widths here. I think there's maybe a 5mm and a 1 centimeter, which is just half a centimeter and a whole centimeter. And I take the backing off of this, and it's much easier to go round in a circle, except for when I already put that piece down to the left, which was an accident. So I am having to trim away just that little funny piece there, so that it will fit beside the piece that I already put down. That sounds complex, it's really not. That was just my mistake. If you don't follow my mistake there, you would have been fine. And then I have covered up the rest of the back of it with all of that foam tape. And this is going to sit nicely on the front of my card. Now the reason I'm using foam tape is because I do want to have some space in between the shakers so that the beads will fit the little gems. Now I'm going to work on the inside here before I start putting it all together. So I've got some liquid glue and double-sided tape down there on the inside of my card. And now I'm going to add some liquid glue to this piece here. I actually put it down and then had to get it back up. That's why it looks a little bit ripped, because I forgot to put the acetate in. But anyway, so I will put the liquid glue on, and so there is 1 sheet of acetate flat up against the inside of my card there. Now I am going to kind of put it all together. So this is where I'm going to put the gems in. I'm taking off all of the release paper from that front portion, and there's 2 sizes of these gems. Now I think I ended up just using the smaller size because they would kind of create the nicest shake. They wouldn't get stuck, I thought. So I'm just putting in what I think is a good amount. There's no rhyme or reason to how much I end up putting in. I don't want to put in so many that I am not able to read the sentiment. So I want them to be able to fall down far enough that I will be able to read it. I don't want it to cover up the sentiment, otherwise there's no point in having the gems in the window to see right through. So I end up putting a couple back in just to make sure that I'm not overfilling it. I spread it out a little bit, and then this will go straight over top. So it's just sitting there, and then once it's straight, I'll push it all down. And you can see through the window nicely. So that looks good. Right, that's kind of the complex part of the card done, which wasn't hard at all. And now we're just going to add some of the finishing details. So remember I had 2 of these circles earlier on. I'm now going to stick them together, tape them together, just temporarily, so that I can create a nice little border for the window at the front. These sorts of details are just extras. You really don't have to do them, but I feel like they just finish off the card nicely. So this is going to be around that front circle there, and again a little bit of liquid glue. In this video in particular I'm using the Nouveau Deluxe glue, and you can see it's just adds that little something. This says, "You've made my day, thank you." This is a stamp set designed by one of Alina's friends, and it is all original artwork, so you don't have to worry about that. Everything in Alina's store is original. And so that I can stamp the sentiment straight, I'm actually just going to use the outline of where I cut those circles from before, line it up where in the middle of the circle, and then put just a little bit of temporary tape down to see where the middle of my circle is going to be, because I want to make sure that I'm stamping right in the center of my circle. So this is just a wee temporary measure so that I could stamp it in the right place. So peel it up, and it's in exactly where it should be. Now this is a little rose stamp set from Alina as well. I actually did this is part of the rose layering stamp set, which I did a video on previous to this. And I'm just inking up part of the rose and stamping it down in exactly the same ink that I stamped the sentiment. I am just doing this as a little bit of extra on the inside. There's roses on the paper, the pattern paper that I used on the front, so it kind of coordinates with everything. And I'm going to add in a couple of the little leaves, which are also from exactly that same stamp set. And I'm not stamping them in far enough so that you can see it when the window is closed. I don't want to have it come into that window, but just enough so that it adds a little bit extra to the inside of the card. Then I'm just going to add a little bit of liquid glue and put a few gems in the middle of some of the flowers. And again, you don't have to do this at all. It's just one of those things that you can do if you want to. So that kind of finishes off the card. This one was really, really fun to make, and the shaker card element of it works really well. It shakes around freely, really nicely. So I hope that this has inspired you and you will give something similar to this a go. And all of the products that will be linked below, mainly they are from Alina's store, so I will link them down below in case you're interested. Thanks, and I will see you next time. Bye!